Is this spider claw grip the reason why Peterbot can't stop winning? If you want to learn how the greatest of all time controls his aim and mouse, then keep watching. Because today we're going to break down the mouse grip, keyboard hand, and posture of Peterbot. Fortnite is a completely different beast when it comes to mouse grip analysis because of the unique mouse movement demands and the insane amount of APMs. But let's do it. So let's start with his general setup. Of course, like many pros, he has an aggressive tilt of the keyboard, which leads to a lot of internal rotation of the shoulder with not too ideal of a posture. Peter sits in a rounded position of his mid-back and shoulders. And through various angles, you can also see his shoulders are a little elevated, all of which can lead to headaches, neck pain, and shoulder pain. The forward head and rounded shoulder position can lead to increased use of his upper traps. And now looking at his forearms, he rests his left completely on the table, while the edge of his right forearm is anchored at the table, which, as I mentioned before, can be a cause of pinky-sided wrist and hand irritation. His grip actually contributes to this, but more on that later, because if you look closely, he actually sits lower than most individuals. Instead of the mid-stomach or belly being the primary point of contact close to the table, it's actually closer to his chest or upper stomach. This allows him to be closer to the actual table and can give him a bit more overall stability with the left and right hands, since he's able to apply downward pressure on the table through his forearms with his shoulder muscles. And this forearm stability is necessary for his style of aiming, which is more wrist and finger controlled. The more stable the forearm is, the more easy it is to isolate movement at his wrist and fingers, and especially for his mouse grip. Peterbot has what I call the spider claw grip, which is a 1-3-1. And if you want to try this grip, you'll start by tilting the mouse, then placing the pinky side of your palm on the outer hump of the mouse. Then you're going to place your fingertips on the top of mouse 1 and mouse 2 buttons like this. The index finger will be on mouse 1 while the middle finger is just outside of the scroll wheel for mouse 2. His ring finger is placed on the top of the mouse closer to the top side of the mouse 2 button. The pinky is wrapped around the back hump of the mouse. And if we look at it from a top-down view, the first thing you'll notice is the tilt of his wrist. And he does this in order to keep the mouse straight or relative to his wrist. In order to compensate for this, he has to tilt his wrist towards his pinky or to the right. And in this position, the center of the mouse is further away from the wrist, which can lead to more use of the muscles on the pinky and top side of the wrist. He really has the trifecta for potential issues there. But he has this grip for a reason, as it can really increase the overall stability of the mouse. And this is similar to a grip from the Valorant Pro Primi. However, one of the key differences is that it does not seem like his thumb side of the palm actually touches the mouse. This can increase the use of pinky muscles at the hand and other forearm muscles. He uses that thumb tip contact to provide a counterbalance to this force, which means a lot of stress at his hands. And on top of these reasons for increased strain, his knuckle joints are also more straight compared to most, or relatively extended. And when the knuckle is straighter, it can cause the muscles on the top side of the forearm to fatigue more easily. Again, more overall strain or risk of irritation. So why does he grip it like this? It's likely because of the initial fit of his first mouse relative to his hand, but also because he leverages more of a fingertip control of the mouse with all of the mouse cursor movement required for protective building and piece control during fights. Fortnite is truly the highest amount of mouse cursor distance when compared to any other game, which is also why there's a lot of prevalence of injuries and pain at the highest level. Peterbot has increased control of his mouse with this grip, although it can probably be achieved with a more standard fingertip grip. But the trade-off is really high physical strain, and because he's young, he probably doesn't have too much discomfort, but I would imagine if he continues this way for many years, there may be some discomfort that appears. What about the keyboard? With Fortnite, we have to look into the keyboard mechanics. Here are his binds, with a majority of the build and editing related binds to the right of his movement keys. All of his binds are controlled by his index finger, while occasionally his middle finger floats in an extended position, as you can see during some of these hand cam clips. He uses his middle finger to press 1 and 2 for his weapon slots, as you can also see during some wall resets and closer engagements. During box fights, endgame, and some early skirmishes, the APMs can get really high, maybe up to 600 to 700 depending on the player and their mechanics, which means a lot of index finger use for Peterbot. And it'll be important for him to work on these key muscles to ensure he doesn't develop any tendon overuse injuries. So how would I rate Peterbot, and where does he stack up with the rest of the pros that I looked at? He is unfortunately at C tier. The nerd neck, elevated shoulder, those are both not ideal, but he's young right now, so he might not have any major issues. But if he doesn't exercise or have better habits around his wrist, hands, and body, it will lead to problems in the future. I really don't want to see that happen, so I'm hoping he recognizes this and begins to exercise. And if you sit like this and don't know where to start with exercise, check out some of our routines we have in our playlist or free wrist pain guides that you can find in the description. So who should I do next?